Okay, Kristen Ferrier, Alabama CFO. Okay. Roll Tide, we are winning, as are the Bulldogs, as are Ohio State, as is Michigan. That's one sentence for me, okay? We live in the South, so college football is very big. Also, praise the Lord and thank you guys so much for everything you have done to prepare for this year's presentations.
Thank you.
I was clueless, and I feel educated, empowered, and equipped. So thank you. So my question, and I appreciate you guys saying the format initially would be virtual in some form or fashion. But as I was looking at the schedule, my concern is a little bit that it does look like the modules will be done in the summer. And so I'm thinking about my camp typically being the first full week in June. And I'm also thinking, absolutely, I'd love to be pilot program. And just having some concern about that conflict. So I just wondered if you guys could speak into that just a little bit. Thank you.
That's a very good thing to think about, because there are very distinct schedules that affect our lives. And so I don't have the answer about that we can fix that, but I think it's something we need to be really praying about.
I think also we envisioned that once one was started and that we'd gone through the review and fixing any little things we needed to fix, that maybe another would be able to start after that, so that it might be ongoing.
So kind of both happening then in the summer and then
Yeah.
complete cycle starting again in the fall.
Yes.
Well, or even earlier than that, depending on how much review and what we need to do to correct, improve. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you, guys.
I might have missed it, but I'm Pam from Montana and other places. I might have missed it, but so you've got week 1 and then break week 2, blah, blah, blah. In the weeks on Zoom, what does that look like? Is it like a full day, five days? Is it like an hour each day? Like what's the week look like?
So within the week, there's at least one, like 90 minutes at the least. We have to, figure out how much time is reasonable and productive. And so that would be the one time that we would cover that, and then there would be assignments and things going on from week to week.
A class, and then you've got homework to prepare for week 2.
Okay. May I also address that? I'm a vocational educator. That means I was in the classroom, but I also had students that worked and a few other things. But I truly believe in a variety of teaching methods, because each of us are different and we learn differently. So my passion from the beginning, or one of them, has been that we use different methods to teach, and that it become application, and that we learn how to do and practice how to do different things. And also, we work by discussing with each other, because in a class you learn so much, I've learned so much from my students. And so, does that answer?
Well, so we'll have like a training, and then maybe like later in the week after we've all, studied, maybe have another Zoom call to say, hey, this is what I'm getting, this like a discussion or something?
It's really pretty early on for us.
So you don't know exactly?
So we don't know totally what that's going to look like, whether it's all going to take place and it'll be in a handbook or something you can refer to and then do.
Okay, I did want to mention, I didn't say this in the presentation, but we're looking at different platforms where there are it's self-guided, so there could be places where students are they're engaging in some kind of interaction, but not necessarily with the instructor.
Okay.
So that's something we are doing a lot of research on, to find the best type of platform which provides different, what's the word for that, components for like typing in and getting responses and having access to info. So, what? More than just Zoom. More than just Zoom.
Right,
Okay,
so you can fit it into your schedule
Dialogue.
where
Yes.
it works. Okay,
Yeah,
that's,
okay. Does
I
that
wanted to know
help?
if we could do that.
All right, good question though.
Gloria Hunter from Van Isle. This might be an obvious answer, but when you were planning this, did you envision these graduates to remain within CFO, or are you training people to go out into the world to be good leaders, following Jesus, leading the world?
Out into the world is a big place. I think maybe that we first start, and yes, we did envision that people would go beyond the doors of their current CFO, or so beyond those doors could be into the church, the community, whatever you have available. The connection that each of you have is different. And so that's what we envision and hope will happen, that we spread the word.
Mm-hmm.
And all of you know, we are relational. We don't just stop, with the doors here when we leave. So yes, we hope that it will go beyond that.
Good. And I'm really excited about this.
So,
And I do want to add that the mentoring, again, that's a commitment. We don't have a time frame on that. But if someone is going to be a mentor and in turn, become the mentor to the mentor, there's a sense that that is also available beyond the course. That's something, maybe I didn't say it that clearly, but that idea of being available in that relationship as the person is going out beyond the doors, as you said. So,
and I think that was opened up to me yesterday when we were talking about the Thriving Camp and about the possibilities of mentoring there. I've taken a lot of classes in my life. I have a master's plus 45 anyway. But, I've taken a lot of those classes for me so I could grow. And that's not exactly what we have in mind here. We are providing, or hopefully providing, this program so that you will be the leader, but that you will go out and mentor. So it won't stop with you, but your legacy, our legacy, will carry on.
That's great. Janice Birch with Tennessee Camp, and I too am extremely excited about y'all doing this, and hope to be part of that pilot program maybe. But I have two questions for you. One is from what someone else just asked, especially with it being like online, at least at first, that kind of an environment. Will the cohort have interaction between themselves in some way as part of the program? Or, because it's online, I'm sitting in my own kitchen doing this, so that's the first question.
absolutely. We can have Sarah. You want to talk about that?
No. I think you should answer right now.
Well, okay. So yes, is that what we would? It's a vision that we see because there is that synergy and that sense of shared purpose. So we wouldn't want to limit that. Could it be something that was an activity, and even pairing people, like making some kind of a commitment, or I'm going to do something, and then you're going to be there to hear me out? Mm-hmm. I love that, and that is something that we believe will happen out of that relationship, of those relationships, but it's not right now like a concrete thing. I think a lot of us zoomed out, so to speak, but I think we also envision, yeah, you know what I mean. So I love that. It's just something, there's a difference between just here, being with the instructor, which is not going to be just lecture. It's going to be a lot of, as you said, interaction. But I think that's a really important thing, that there's something that goes beyond just being in a class together that could develop and grow.
That'd be good.
Can I also just jump in real quick to make a comment? Previously, someone was saying, thank you, I'm not that tall. We're looking at different platforms and ways to present the course, and I'm helping to do some of that research, and one of the features or benefits we're looking for is the possibility that the platform itself, in addition to presenting courses and assignments, would also offer discussion forums, so that if you're a member of a cohort, you'll be able to potentially log on to the online platform, and the 6 or 8 members of the cohort could all meet and discuss what's going on and give feedback to one another and saying, here's what I'm experiencing, here's questions I have. And it'd be a place where they can interact virtually, not necessarily with a Zoom type call, but it would be a discussion forum. So it's just one more feature that we're looking into, hopefully incorporating into the course.
I know some of the online classes that I've done, there are threads where you can answer the teacher's question and then also answer some of the other students what they might propose or bring up.
And the second question is just a quick logistic one. In that pilot year, you have the classes for a month and then reviewing, tweaking, and all these things. Is that the plan, like going forward as well, that there will always be that month gap to review, or is this pretty much just for the pilot year? Because that changes, like in the future, 5 years down the line. I'm asking, if someone wants to be involved, it might be a 6-month commitment rather than a year-long commitment that they're asking for.
That's a great question. And at this point in time, we're creating space for ourselves for those deliverables. But what we would envision that they would be fairly concise modules for 1, 2, 3, and 4. But the challenge for us is not only just to, dream with us, people. Mm-hmm. The master class is one thing. Think other languages. So once the first pilot, we're just giving ourselves lots of latitude because the curriculum is still inkless at this point in time. There's no ink to it quite as yet. But it should roll out, and we hope to gain momentum from there.
Okay.
Sarah wants to add to that.
Yeah.
So with that, and I also, I was able to be with this committee for the first probably 9 months of it, and then had to step back a little bit this summer when governance started going weekly. Then I was like, I can't do 2 committees at the same time. So they had a lot of incredible discussions the last few months that I wasn't able to be part of. But earlier in the process, when we were talking about the modules, one of the perspectives and thoughts that I was thinking about, and I think the committee really talked about a lot in that time as well, was, at least for me in the kind of intense season of life that I'm in right now, committing to a 16-week course felt really intense and overwhelming. And so the ability to think through it as a module and to be able to say, like, okay, can I commit to a module? Can I step forth and say, like, at this time of life, yes, can I do this? And get that intense, incredible experience, and then pray about when I'm ready to do that next step. I think we appreciated that ability for some freedom and flexibility within that time of as well, so that people who weren't retired and didn't have as much time in different times of the day and things like that could also be able to experience some of these things. So those are things we were also talking about.
That's great. Yeah, that's a whole other level of flexibility I didn't know was there. So that's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did we answer your question? Okay. In the real world, there's some flexibility. I know before I came, I took 3 weeks of stained glass classes. They had a 4th. That was last week. I wasn't there. And so I can go back and make that class up when I get back in my time. And that's what we would envision, being able to have some flexibility.
Martha Dobra, Georgia, Florida camps. I have a couple questions. Who is actually writing this curriculum?
Members of the leadership team, and
All right.
we have people represented in the slide, and possibly, and strategic planning team as well.
Okay. Is it being hired out, or is it all volunteer to prepare the course, to write the course?
Yes, it's all,
Okay. How is this different from the leadership training that we did a couple of years ago? There were several.
Okay.
Rare leadership. How is it different from that?
Okay, because I've been part of the Engage program. I went through all 5 levels of that. And because I've also taken the Compass program and I think I have my training, whatever, for that. I'm really passionate about several things that are in there. And as a leader for my zone, I've used some of those to get me out of some really tight positions when issues came up with people within my zone. Mm-hmm. So I'm really passionate about that. I might also include, and this may be a little off the subject, but we are, by our Father, we are given. Ephesians 2:10 is one of the ones I stand by. And it says, "For we are his workmanship, created in Jesus Christ for works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them." I believe God has been working with each of us through our life. And I didn't become a Christian until I was 35. But I know that he was working with me before then in certain aspects, many aspects. I've done a timeline, and so our personal timeline. And so I know he was working with me. He's not finished with me yet. I still have much to learn, as we all do. And so I totally believe that he created me. He gave me certain gifts. My gifts are not the same as Kate's, but we still work together, and we've been really doing that in this team with the rest of you. I also believe that when we're working with other people, and we need to work in love, not in fear. And that's the relational part that I think is so terribly, terribly important. That's the part that I got from that Engage program that I want to see go on. Okay? Did I answer your question?
Let me just step in a little bit. So Engage and Compass are both well done, standalone courses that address a particular area of leadership development based on kind of a certain philosophical framing that's biblically based, but kind of attacks the problem, if you will, from a particular angle. And there's much usefulness in them, but when the team looked at what was kind of already on our shelf, they said this isn't exactly the right charted course for how we develop, how we, identify, train, and equip, or empower. Both, right? So they said, let's take the good elements that are from the things that we already have in our toolbox and then stitch them together in a way that is more concise for where we're going as an organization and how we want to develop and grow leaders. But those will still stay on the shelf, and we might dust them off and freshen them up a little bit from time to time and offer them as standalone courses. But right now, the direction is the mentoring leadership program.
Does that answer your question, Martha?
It's getting there. So the next question is there going to be specific training in specific areas of leadership in camps, like chairmanship or secretary or treasurer or speaking or devotion and motion or that? Will those specific things be in there somewhere?
did you want to say something? Okay.
I was going to take that.
Oh, okay.
Here.
Oh, I'm looking at, yes, please do.
So those are things that we're looking at as part of the Thriving Camp model also. So there is an overlap. But we do know that we need specific training for leadership, camp leadership, program element leadership. So this is a different aspect also, but we're taking from that. We'll create more specific to those needs in addition. So we're not going to say as a council ring member, you have to take the leadership development course. That's not what we're going to say. But we will have specific elemental pieces for program leaders, for
There it is.
council ring executive.
As a part of this, or
Yes, it's a
different?
piece. Yeah, it's a piece of it. It's not the full picture. It's
Okay.
not. It's not the same 16-week course. But we'll take elements of that and then put in what's necessary for program leadership, what's necessary for council ring leadership.
Okay.
As far as Engage is concerned, I thought it, as having taken it, I thought it was very redundant. We went over several things many, many times, and I'd like to see that a little more, a lot more concise.
All right, my name is Tim. I'm from Van Isle. My question is to do with the not the market for it, but the who are you trying to get involved with this? What is the minimum age, and how are you specifically aiming at that lower end of the age group?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, as we've been saying in what we look at for leadership roles that are being proposed, that we have representation of different age groups because we recognize that there's ongoing, as you said, we're continuing and we're open and willing to be growing and changing. I think we have a very strong desire to see people being brought into this program who might not have had very obvious conduits for training and learning. That doesn't mean you can't have served somewhere as a leader, but we also see that this is a time for people who are frustrated perhaps with not getting the mentoring, getting that relational and not having that kind of the cohort model of that's small for the pilot. It's pretty small, but we did that on purpose. So where we get the people will be a lot coming from, I think CFO itself has potential for people to say, hey, we have this class, and we are going to open the applications to, you know, pretty much put it out there. I think it would be through, I'm guessing through the website, and then by word of mouth. And this is coming pretty soon, but I guess I would turn the question back to someone like yourself. If you heard about this, how do you think it would, you know, considering where you are in your life? You know, is there something, and that's something we need to develop, how to put the application in, asking the right questions so that somebody senses there's like a expectation and excitement. This isn't just like I'm joining another class, so I'd love to see what you're thinking.
Yeah, I guess it comes down to creating that, like you said, that excitement around it, and in order to do that, you need to have engaging leadership in place that makes those that are younger, even down to mature. I think like down to mature, like 16-year-olds are even able to.
That is the age we were saying, 16 and above. Yeah.
But through that, like Zoom is just like, it's not going to happen. Like it's very unlikely unless there's a bunch of them and their friends are all doing it. It's just very unlikely, and that's why I'm specifically asking how, if we're aiming at that, if those are the leaders that we want to build up, then that, you know, that's not who we have. We're not flowing in 16-year-olds running around. There are some camps that have very few of young adults and youth, but yeah, if we're trying to build leaders that are going to engage that age group, then we need to have. Then how are we doing that? I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
No, thank you, Tim, for that really great question. And I might defer to Sarah on this. Something that I had talked about, and we this is great. We want to also have classes which is very inclusive, that would encompass and include incredible young, like older teens that we recognize, we identify that they have strong passions, convictions, and are change agents in their spheres of influence already. That's why Karen is tasked to look at the appropriate platform. Something that, and we talked about this at a BOD level and what have you. The young teens, they're YouTubers. If we present something in printed format all the time and says this is going to be our Bible and platform for the next 20 years, well, I'm sorry. So it's that kind of so I appreciate your question. And so we want to get off the block with developing good, sound, biblical principles and modules that talk about the spiritual formation and character development, and then put tools in the tool belt on how to run a camp, or how to team build or do conflict resolution. But we also recognize that the delivery mechanism, the cohorting, and the things that take place organically, we don't really know in its entirety yet. And that's why I mentioned about Sarah, because we've had brief conversations, how 10 years from now, what's the main delivery mechanism of training and equipping the Gen A's, the alphas? Right? So it's a great question. We're not quite there yet. So we're looking at different platforms and its delivery. But yeah, we need something whereby if I can access it off my phone, it's great. I don't have to sit at my laptop. I don't have to sit there because, so there's all kinds of, it's still in development, Tim.
So this is like, I love ideas and inspiration, and I feel like God just pours ideas and thoughts too sometimes. And earlier this morning, somebody also asked hey, what about those national youth camps or things that used to happen? And so even something like this could happen in that type of capacity. Maybe it is a regional gathering for youth, young adults, and it happens in a 2-day period. We don't need 16 weeks. We can have 16 hours and do these topics and these conversations. And maybe these young at hearts who are excited about mentoring and things like that can come and engage and do all of these things together. So I'm excited about doing that and building, and I think we can do this because God owns 1,000 cattle at 1,000 hills, and he can figure out the funding. And also, I think one of the things that made some of those youth and young adult retreats financially accessible in that time is we tried to find sites that were as cheap as possible, and we made our own food, and we, so I would love to think about how we could do that and how we could, because also I think for youth and young adults is the feeling that they are not alone, and not just feeling like this is my community, because I think that has led to a chronic feeling of loneliness and depression. So I think we need to actually take away the phones. And so I think bringing youth and young adults together could actually be wildly effective for mentoring inspiration. So I think that's what we need to do.
That's good. I want to just speak to that for a second if I could. I think that this is what we're hearing out is, God is in it, it has value, but I want to also reiterate that every single one of us, if you're 100 and whatever old age you are, that God can engage those in your camps. It doesn't matter. When I was young, if someone loves you and they're coming up to you and they're engaging with you, no matter how old they are, you respond to that and you open up to that. And the best way to do that is face to face. Yes. And that's where the camps are wonderful. I don't like phones and devices and all that stuff. And the youth, they say they do. They always have it on them, but really they're longing for something more than this darn device, right? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Tim, for bringing that to light. And that is very important. Okay, so I am in the last group Jen, whatever. Silent, maybe. I doubt it. That's my friend. What do you think? But anyway, we've got to think out of the box. God, we can't put him in a box. We can't put us in a box. And those of us that have gray hair, we need to be praying and figuring out, we need to do this in love. And we need to just even visit with them. We need to volunteer. I was told that they tried the mentoring thing one other time, and nobody agreed to be a mentor. What's wrong? Where are we? Now, was it yesterday you talked about the throwing of the rock and all that sort of thing? Was that mentoring? Yes. I mean, that was an opportunity to meet those young people. Gosh, guys, we need to be talking to God and see what he has to say. What does he want us to do? Get off of and meet the needs. We had an interesting discussion yesterday. Yeah. I'll be quiet for a day or two.
Hello, Jake Ferrier, Alabama. Gen Z representative and also avid YouTube watcher.
Okay.
And left-handed. Say again?
And creator, right?
Yes. Quick clarification, was Engage, because I don't know, was Engage and Compass, right, were those proprietary courses that CFO created, or were those pulled in from something else?
A little of both.
Okay.
Yeah. Engage, we partnered with Don Whitestone, who many of you know, and took the book Rare Leadership, which is Marcus Warner and another guy that they wrote. It's a great book. Jim Wilder. And broke it down and incorporated CFO elements in it. But it was a 2-year program. 2 years. No. And you were a lot, like Linda said, a lot of it was repetitive, each session. So that was an outside product that we brought in and wrapped CFO around it. Compass is also an outside product that we brought in and wrapped CFO around it. Sweet Spot, finding your sweet spot or something like that. It's about finding your calling and then going out into the world and understanding when you step away from that course what your calling is and what your next direction might be. But we took that and infused CFO. So we don't have the legal rights really to reproduce that as a CFO only product. This is a CFO product. We're developing it, and somebody asked, are we doing volunteers? Absolutely. The goal is to bring them together for a writing intensive curriculum weekend, not an hour every other week. We want to bring them together so they can sit in a room and develop this together. So that's the goal.
Thank you. And then one other question. Obviously, this is still in development. A lot of testing still having to happen. But I know we've talked about, bringing it in tandem with the camps and stuff. But are there plans development, in the future, obviously, for like bringing crash courses like this into churches or like extracurricular for schools, things like that?
I took the Compass program to my local prayer group, none of which are CFOers. But I got one of them as a speaker, and it was a wonderful Christian group. So, I mean, the sky is the limit, and ask God where you should go and what to do.
Yeah. Where's my school of cruciformity, right? There we go.
Yeah, and that diagram, absolutely, it should be transferable. And that's where mentoring is a link. It's also really important. So that, that's where a lot of life starts to grow. When you're in that community, you're in that role, you're challenged, but you're acting, you're active. So absolutely. And that is another way to reflect God's purposes, and it could be another way, a pathway to be in a camp or in other types of CFO events. Again, it's like networking, but there's definitely a desire to see it affect where we are and be relevant for what we need today and going forward.
That's a great question, and that's a dream and a passion of ours, is that in the development of all of this, we see CFO transforming itself not to be the best camp in North America, but CFO will be the best for North America. That if we can train and equip teens, young adults, elders within their own church, and then they have their own church retreat and use our material, that's where we are looking at that measure of kingdom. We want to see God use us as change agents for North America. So yeah, it's not confined within that, but it definitely has a CFO flavor to it.
Thank you.
We would like to challenge you to be a mentor and to help train us so that we can better communicate with you, and that, I've been around long enough to know that words don't mean the same thing, and so I may say something and that may mean something totally different. I would prefer that you not use shock on me. But for all of you, how can you mentor? How can you use what you have? It just drives me crazy when somebody has something in their hand and they are holding on to it so tight that it's oozing out between their fingers and nobody's getting it. So do you understand where we are with this? And we do.
Yeah, absolutely. 60 seconds, YouTube Reels. The kids love those.
Okay, we'll see you after the meeting.
Yes.
Taking notes. Thank you so much.
Susie Muir, Black Hills, South Dakota Camp. Okay. So first I just want to echo some other sentiments and thank you guys for preparing the way, because this is needed and this has been in process since long before you guys got involved. God was preparing your way and you're preparing our way, so thank you. Second, I know there was mention of trying to make sure things were affordable and all of that, and I know this is very early in the process. I would assume there would probably be some sort of scholarship or something to help those who need it. I was just wondering if there was a rough ballpark of a base price point yet. Any rough idea of what it might cost if you don't have financial aid, for lack of a better term?
We can't, because we don't know the tool that we'll be using yet. And we want to make sure that whoever the instructors are. Sorry. We can, and we've tossed around numbers, but we don't know what the tool is. We need to make sure that we cover the cost for the tool, right? We want to be able to pay the instructors, so we don't know that yet. So we'll look at it, what other, if it has a huge price tag that's going to deter people, we'll look and see how we can help provide financial assistance for that. Okay?
Thank you. Okay. And then second question. Where do we apply for the pilot program? Where can we find that application?
See you after the meeting. No. We don't have the application completed yet, but I would say the best tool right now is, we'll take the number. Yep. We'll sign up for interest in the application, and then we'll be putting it out across the, the media with regular distribution.
Okay. Thank you.
So, yeah. Great. Ooh. Yeah, right?
David Dobra, North Florida CFO, Georgia Mountain CFO. Have you considered that you already have mentors in place? Every youth leader at every camp that connects with youth at that camp is a mentor. My suggestion to look at this first module as being a camp-connected module for youth leaders to implement, to bring this concept and idea, because we all know that relationships, touching, feeling, seeing, hearing, form connections.
Yes.
I think that's the best place to start. The first module is in the camps with your youth leaders, giving them a quick schooling, or at least come and visit this module so you can prepare yourself and you can present it. Because you have them right there. Yeah. I mean, you really have this excellent place to begin this school. My comment, question. I mean, that's my question. Have you considered the youth leaders at camps?
Absolutely, and thanks again for that great question. And one of the things that we've been looking at with respect to launching this, you and I already know of great potential participant students that would do a user testing on the first trial here. And their strength to even intentionally create a cohort, like you say, identify, hey, let's use some of our youth leaders that's out there, because there's a lot of same language, a commonality right there, which adds to the success of its implementation and its scrutiny at the same time. So the more diversity that you have, it's good for user testing, but saying, well, what does this word mean? So you're right. It's a great question. We've entertained that. If you've ever pilot test for the very, very first time, you want to carefully select people who can give you critical feedback on the material. And then the second time through, you tweak it, right? And then you can go to a much broader audience. So that is a great implementation kind of look at that approach to it, David. But thank you. That's
right.
Yeah, thanks.
Great suggestion and recommendation.
Good place to start, but I've talked to several people, and just program probably, leaders, and I'm discovering that they're not sure themselves on how to mentor, or maybe they don't have the skills, and so we have to be real careful that what I know, everybody else doesn't know, or they don't feel, or whatever, but we want to get them to that point where they are confident and they understand that people have different learning styles, different language vocabulary. I think of way back when my kids were dating, and dating meant one thing for me and something else for my kid, and it's like, that doesn't look like what I think. What are you talking about? So that's kind of, but anyway, and so I think we can't always assume that somebody knows how to mentor.
Correct. Yes.
And that's probably been Kate and I and Sarah's lifelong training, and we still have lots to learn.
In response to how we can do that the most effective way, I think each one of us have had young people in our lives or people around us who either gravitated toward us or heard something that created connectivity. And one thing, the first training that we went through, CFO, when we started the process of connecting together, we had a prayer time together, training and listening and going through the materials on a weekly basis. And we made connections. We realized that this group of 5 or 6 people became part of who we are, who we were, and we wanted to know and hear and be a part of that. I believe this training or this mentoring has to have that kind of personal relationship for it to be successful.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Very well said. Thank you.
Barbara Bergman, Washington CFO. I just have a quick clarification in two areas. Do I understand that it's one cohort of students that would take all 4 modules? I'm not sure that I understand. Is it 4 different teachers, or is it a group of teachers that goes through all 4, or?
Okay, so initially, again, we've looked at that in different ways. We were considering one instructor for the 4 modules, but we're starting to talk about the idea of team teaching. That's actually a really positive thing. It works in a lot of different ways. But we haven't actually talked about the difference of there's something about having consistency across the 4 modules, but we also recognize that might not be as flexible with the types of topics that are being covered. So we don't want to miss out on utilizing really great people in those roles. So anybody else want to say something about that?
I haven't been in all these conversations, but one thing I picked up around the fringes is the idea that if we can't use a consistent same instructor across the entire course for various reasons, including all the things that Kate just mentioned, then there would be an advantage to having kind of like a class counselor mentor that comes along who isn't a student in the course, but is there as the continuity and who is, that elder kind of mentor role to be a part of what they're doing, inform community and consistency in community, and help build the camaraderie within the group. So, another option, yeah.
Another option?
No, that was another possibility. No, this is all a little bit speculative because we don't know who the instructors are, who the mentors are, who the students are going to be yet, and as is already mentioned, there's going to be like this is in development. So there's module and then break and evaluation, another one, and refinement through the whole thing to build the best tool for all of us and let God work through that process.
And just that I notice that 2 of the modules will be in June and August. And that's when families do their thing and kids have, young people have jobs and camps. So it's interesting.
Good choice of word.
Yeah, we did respond to that, but so but I think we're hearing it again, which means that that's something we really ought to pay attention to. We don't want that time frame to limit, but we also have to see what we can do with the flexibility to address the needs. Yeah. It's really good.
Thank you. I'm very excited.
Yes.
One thing I would just add to that as well is that, there's no time of year where people's lives aren't busy. Well, in mine anyways. And the idea behind this is not that it is all-consuming. Everybody has lives they're leading, their vocations, their families, their involvement in other ministries. And this will be, I think they're trying to strike the right balance of the intensity level and the commitment level, but not make it so much of a commitment that nobody can do it. Yeah. And so that's, again, part of that cycle of development to try to find that right balance.
All right, Kristen Ferrier again, Alabama, CFO. I have 2 follow-up questions, and I'll start with the easy one first. No, easy one first, guys. That's a warm-up, right? So I love that the Lord has made provision on this panel here and in this committee here with educators who are master educators, right? I am interested to know what other resources will be being used to develop the curriculum and the programming. Oh no, was that a hard one?
All right, well, all right.
That was easy.
So we have a template where we've been putting in and testing and reading a lot. absorbing, praying, and looking at, okay, is this getting to the heart of what we want to cover in this section? And we were going to show an example. It was just too complicated. But the thing is, we are going to continue to seek the Lord, okay? Because there's a lot out there. So there are some authors that we think are right on. So we've put those in. And we also know there's podcasts, and it's really about discerning. All right, because as you were saying about the balance, but we are seeking to find just what works, and we'll continue to review that. So yeah, outside readings, authors, but as a group looking at that critically, discerning it. And what? And curating, yeah. So that's where we're at with that.
Okay, very good. And the Lord is always going to be the first resource, right? So, so that's good, and I'm comfortable with that. My other question relates to everyone has put a lot of work into all of these models, and we're voting on one of these models this weekend. And so I'm thinking about... I don't want to give too much of like my opinion here. I want to say, let's make the presumption that the governance model is passed. How does that impact the other things that these teams have done? And I'll put like the bold question of just, can the board of directors come in and be like, I know you guys put all this work in, but we're ex-naying it. And again, I trust in the Lord to be the first resource.
So I am going to answer that. What the Thriving Camp Model team and the leadership development team are doing is a report. They were already commissioned to do this last year, so they're telling you of their progress. The actual vote is on the governance structure, which includes the continuation of this. It's all one package, nicely wrapped, beautiful bow. We don't break it down. And yeah, remember, I don't know if you were here when I said this, I'm the loudest voice that the board of directors can't come in and stop this. I am your loudest voice to the board of directors. So, yeah, no, if I see issues, I will come out to the advisory board and I will do whatever I need to do. But I am your biggest advocate.
Okay, we're down to 2 minutes for questions, 1 minute for Pam.
My question is about workshops. So at our next national gathering, which has been called annual, is there a place that the wonderful things you're talking about and some of the stuff from Thriving Camp, even the training that we were throwing around for council ring chairman and treasurer and registrar, is there a place that some of that could be put in workshop format when we're gathered? So it could be a snippet and then they can come take the full course. Or do you think that it wouldn't work?
I think it would work beautifully. I remember my first CFO camp, they did have training there. They did have speakers that, so I would hope, but I'm not sure this committee.
To be determined, really.
Yeah.
To be determined. But it's a thought.
Yeah.
And if the thought worked, maybe our annual could be called National Leadership Conference. And then the folks like with worship, like, for goodness gracious, I need to be mentored by Chell. She's amazing with how to put the sets together electronically. It's like, I'm in the dark ages compared to these folks. I'm like, I'm sorry. Okay, so like even that. So if we could have workshops, I think that'd be phenomenal and pique the interest, and then I think more people would be pounding at the door.
And we really see that we want to respond to what's going to transform and equip and activate people. So that goes right in, the doing, the practice of it, and then sharing and seeing and reflecting. That's really the heart of this. If we can say it looks good and sounds good over here, but we have to start stepping into it.
And the motto could be learn, practice, prepare.
Oh, thank you. All right, we'll see you after the meeting.
I can be really quick. I do thank you for all the work you've put into it, because I know there's a lot of work that goes to anything you do. You put your whole heart and soul and mind into. You eat, sleep, and drink it, right? So thank you. Couple things. One, I just want to make a statement, then I want to ask a question connected to the statement. I find in my own life there's a lot of mentoring goes on every day when you engage people. When you engage people, they begin to share with you and want to know how you do this, or how do you do that, or how do you do. So mentoring goes on regardless whether you have a class or not. And it should, to all ages. So my question is, when you're talking about getting a mentor, are you having applications for a mentor and someone who wishes to be mentored? It's not about, here we are, we're mentors, and it's like, nobody wants that. I've got Susie and Johnny and Billy out here on Island 4, right? Because the natural process does take place when you live your life for Jesus. They want to know how that happens. So are you finding a way for those people to not make them feel, and I'm sure you wouldn't want to make them feel like you need a mentor. It's not like that.
You're so right. You're so right. We were talking about this late last night. It's exactly the same thing. The vision for this is grand, but we have to start somewhere. The vision is that we would have structured programs in place for helping match up people who want to be mentored with people who are of like mind and compatible and can mentor them, and that they can establish long-term relationships and intimacy and discipleship, right? That would happen, and that we can facilitate it, programmatically. Like, it's a terrible, rigid word, but because it's not happening organically everywhere.
Yes.
And in order to make it sustainable for all those things, to make it work, then we do need to add some structure to it so that we can make sure that nobody's left in the margins. And so we're 100% for that. This program doesn't do that quite. It gets us one step toward it by providing some training for people to become mentors. And even within the class environment itself, mentoring will be going on, but it's not the formalized, structured program that does what you're talking about, of necessarily doing that matchmaking, if you will, of people to start those relationships, but it will be coming. That's our prayer, that's our vision.
Okay, the other question I have is, have you considered, you're talking about a youth leader sharing with the youth, that they're closer to an age, if nothing else, they're closer to them because they know their lingo, right? And once they know their lingo, so you've got this youth leader that's closer to that age, so they're going to be mentoring them. How about that youth leader that likes to step back and get a hold of that youth leader of the past that says this is some other way you can do it?
It's not going to be that rigid. It's a both and. It's a both and. I wouldn't be presumptuous to say that you can only mentor somebody that's one generation in any direction. God can work in all of that, and it's not scoped out yet. So I would just say that it's not going to be that rigid.
Good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that was my question.
We're over time.
Okay. That was my question. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Martha.
Gloria Hunter again from Banner. I believe that leaders, to be good leaders, need to know themselves.
Yes.
Now, it's taken me close to, in my 70s before I really know myself. So, and there are all sorts of really popular terms like authenticity, transparency, and vulnerability. And I'm just wondering if you will be addressing that in the curriculum, because some of the people that take the course may not have done that or have those experiences in their lives. And I think that people need to be able to relate to each other and be vulnerable with each other and show the real person underneath here if they're going to be effective. So I'm just wondering if you could comment on that.
Yeah, I just want to say very briefly, that is so key, because the transformative life is ongoing. And if we think it's just, we say emerging leaders, but it's for all people who are called. Yeah. So, and whatever age you sense, there's something that hasn't been birthed or expressed in me, and I'm going to find what that is. So that is, we want to honor that. God honors that. So yeah, that's so key. Let's not get hung up on, yeah, you've already,
Knowledge
no.
and-
Yeah,
yeah.
no, that's, and the terms that you're using, that's something we have to be really intentional about when we use words, like you were saying. What does this mean? How are we defining it? So thank you for pointing that out.
Thank you.
Okay, Rex, I'm not quite done. I got just 2-3 things. First of all, I believe
It's
that
their
you-
lunchtime you're working with.
Okay. I believe that you learn something new every day. The other thing is that there's no retirement in God's world. Okay? And the last thing, well, maybe I've lost that too, no, I'm done. Oh, I know. That we're afraid we're going to lose our job. If we lose our job, God has something else for us.
Amen. Amen. Hallelujah. I just want to say that.